On the Global TV News headlines, President Tinubu appoints 3 new NUPRC executive commissioners. Federal governments to charge triple ground rent on unoccupied properties off-season. EFCC deploys operatives to Bayelsa, Kogi and Imo. Plus, Australia offers to value citizens refugee as sea swallows homeland. Stay on for the main news. Hello and a very warm welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Global TV AM News, live from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. I am Fauziya Lukman. President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of 3 new executive commissioners to serve in the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, and the redeployment of 1 current executive commissioner pending their confirmation by the Nigerian Senate. A statement by the presidency says Tinubu approved the reshuffling and replacement based on his deeply informed assessment of all factors concerning the sectors, with a view to establishing a regulatory framework and culture that comprehensively disintegrates errant behavior and insensitive diligence and rule-based businesses practiced across the industry. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has appointed Risola Abiola as the Senior Special Assistant on Citizenship and Leadership. In this role, the President believes she will work closely with the leadership of the Ministry of Youth. Abiola is a public relations professional and a youth and gender advocate. She is also a founding member of the party's Young Women's Movement and was appointed as one of the 3 youth representatives to party's Board of Trustees in 2015. The federal government says it will charge owners of completed unoccupied houses triple ground rent instead of the single rate normally charged for 3 months after completion. Minister of Housing and Urban Development Ahmad Engiwa says this in an interview with newsmen during his continuation to site visit of housing project constructed by the government and its agencies on Friday. Engiwa affirmed the issues of completed and occupied properties was prevalent in FCT and some states of the Federation, while many citizens were in dire need of accommodations. In its effort to stem the tide of revenue loss in the solid mineral sector, the federal government has trained a total of 120 youths and women in Plateau State on artisanal and small-scale mining. The Winglong Capacity Building, which has done through the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Policy Commission, is partnership with the United Nations Development Program, ended in June on Friday. Chairman of the RMAFC Research and Development Committee, Addison Tokumbo, decried the low contribution of the small mineral sectors to Nigeria's revenue earnings, blaming it on the non-formalization of the activities of many actors in the sector. Tokumbo noted that over the years, the Commission saddled with the constitutional responsibility to monitor accruals into the disbursement of revenue from the Federation's account, had observed that revenue accruals into the account from the solid mineral sectors have been in abysmal low compared to from the hydrocarbon. Lagos State government have concluded plans to short and divert traffic on Marine Bridge, a Apapa area of the state, for repairs work from Friday, 10th November till Thursday, 21st December 2023. Commissioner for Transport Oluwasegun Osiyemi announced the planned closure for rehabilitation works. He noted that in the continuation of the repair works by the Federal Ministry of Works on the Marine Bridge, traffic will be diverted on the bridge from Friday 10th November till Thursday 21st December 2023. Urging motorists to make use of the Marine Bridge access route to Area B and make a U-turn at Point Junction Road towards Marine Bridge to continue their journeys. He, however, assured that traffic personnel from the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority last month will be deployed to manage traffic flow and minimize inconveniences. As part of efforts to improve the welfare of its personnel, the Chief of Army, Reid Lagbaja, has performed groundbreaking foundation laying for the construction of the Abdul Samad Rabiu Corporal and below quarters at the Muhammad Buhari Cantonment, Giri, Abuja. Speaking at the ceremony, The Army chief says the project was immensely contributed to addressing the huge infrastructure deficit in Nigeria Army is currently facing in Abuja. Kikelamo Okiri has details.
The Army Chief says Nigerian Army under his leadership will continue to give utmost priority to the welfare of his personnel as crystallized in the third term of his command philosophy, which is to provide sound administration and support to the home front of personnel as major pillar. He called on other corporate organizations to emulate ASR Africa and support the government in meeting some of the essential needs of the security agencies. Chairman BOA Group Abdulsamad Rabiu stated that through the security sector support grant, the firm was able to support the armed forces and other security agencies in the country, noting that the management is pleased with the Nigerian Army for utilizing the grant allocated for infrastructure development. Rabiu, who was represented by the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, ASR Africa, Ubo Udo, stressed that the contribution of the ASR Africa is an indication of its commitment to development solutions in Nigeria and in Africa in general.
Okay, so this is part of the security sector support grants from Alhaji Abdulsamad Rabiu. We've already provided grants ranging from 500 million naira to 2 billion naira for 10 security agencies and the armed forces. This is part of our program, and we're going to implement these ones first and then see what happens going forward. You work for the Army, eh? So the allocations were done based on, of course, the strength. The Army, Air Force, and Navy got 2 billion each. We understand that the Army, of course, has, of course, a lot more men. But we're open to individual proposals as well.
Highlight of the ceremony were the foundation laying for the construction of 120 units of corporal and below quarters by the Chief of Army Staff.
NLC Joe Ajero on Friday said he was arrested in Owerri. The president says the NLC wrote to all the security agencies before they went to the state for the protest on November 1. According to him, workers who arrived at the venue of the protest on the day at about 7 a.m. were allegedly beaten up by thugs with their phones seized. The NLC president, however, denied the allegation by the Imo State government that he is a card-carrying member of the Labour Party. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has deployed its operatives on election monitoring operations in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo States. The Commissioner's head of media and publicity, Dele Oyewale, in a statement says the operations were aimed at checking electoral fraud and associated crimes. Oyewale stated that in the Commission's drive to checkmate electoral fraud and associated financial crimes, the anti-graft agency has deployed its officers to Kogi, Bayelsa, and Imo State, where governorship elections are holding on Saturday, November 11, 2023. Yaga Africa has called on the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to ensure proper coordination of deployment of materials and personnel for the off-cycle governorship elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo State. In a statement jointly signed by the board chair and executive director Yaga Africa and read by Eze Nwanwagu to the journalists in Abuja, the organization charged the commission to ensure that materials and personnel get to these places promptly. Our correspondent, Subarat Usman, was there for Global TV.
Yaga urged INEC to resist attempts to sabotage information technology logistics preparation by collaborating with security agencies to arrest and prosecute defaulting transport companies.
Yaga Africa projects low voter turnout in the respective states owing to the spate of pre-election violence, a deep sense of citizens' distrust, apparent fear of intimidation, voter fatigue, and loss of faith in elections as a means to achieving democratic leadership. Yaga Africa advocates for 11th hour confidence building voter education to improve voter turnout. Deployment of election materials. Yaga Africa notes INEC's deployment of sensitive and non-sensitive election materials to the local government areas in the 3 states. While this projects a positive outlook, Yaga Africa calls on INEC to ensure proper coordination and communication with the transport companies unions, providing logistics support to ensure early deployment of materials and personnel to polling units on election day. The Commission should resist attempts to sabotage its logistic preparations by collaborating with security agencies to arrest and prosecute any defaulting transport companies. This will address the recurring late commencement of polls.
YAGA Africa therefore call on the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security to ensure that security personnel deployed for the election comply with the Code of Conduct on Election Security.
YAGA Africa calls on political parties, candidates, and their supporters to commit to peaceful campaigns ahead of the elections, and on election day to refrain from vote buying and compromising the secrecy of the ballot. YAGA Africa urges voters to resist efforts to purchase their votes, turn out in their numbers, and vote according to their preferences on Saturday, November 11th. YAGA Africa is watching the vote observation for the 2023 off-circle governorship elections. We'll just share details of our deployment plan for tomorrow. For the November 11
You're watching Global TV News Express, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. We are on StarTime channel 276. Kindly follow us across social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and others now showing on your screen. When the News Express returns, federal government to spend 7.76 trillion naira on salaries as well as other items. The news continues shortly with details of this and other stories right after this break. Please don't go away. Welcome back to Global Television, bringing you live broadcasts of the News Express from the Nigerian's capital, Abuja. On the foreign scene, prosecutors in Burundi on Thursday called for the SAC Prime Minister Alain Guillaume Bunyoni to be sentenced to life in prison, as he has been on trial since September before the Supreme Court, sitting in session at the prison in the political capital, Gitera, where he is being detained. Bunyoni was Prime Minister for the mid-2020 until September 2022, when he was fired days after President Evariste Ndayishimiye warned of the coup plot against him. He is accused of threatening the life of the head of state, undermining national security, attempting to topple government institutions, and destabilizing the economy and illegal enrichment, among other charges. Appearing in the dock with 6 other co-defendants, he pleaded not guilty with all charges and said he should be acquitted because of lack of evidence against him. The presiding judge says a verdict will be issued within 30 days. Citizens of the climate-threatened Tuvalu will have the right to leave the Australian under a landmark pact unveiled on Friday. It is an offer of refuge as their Pacific homeland is lost beneath the sea. Prime Ministers Scotia Netanu and Anthony Albanese inked a treaty to help Tuvalu's 11,000 residents to tackle climate change and take up sanctuary should the war's fears materialize. Tuvalu is among the world's most vulnerable nations due to rising sea levels. 2 of Tuvalu's 9 coral islands have already largely disappeared under the waves, and climate scientists fear the entire and organized labor, salaries to federal workers, and other non-development requirement costs are expected to go up 7.76 trillion naira in 2023. This is based on data from the initial 2023 budget and recently signed 2023 supplementary budget. The country's central government recently approved 2.18 trillion naira budget to augment new expenses, including an agreed wage reward for workers due to the removal of fuel subsidy. When the budget was announced, the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning, Abubakar Bagudu, noted that 605 billion naira has been earmarked for the national defense, while 210 billion naira will cover the payment of wage awards. According to the appropriation detail from the Budget Office, 1.01 trillion naira of the total budget is for the procurement expenditure, with 1.17 trillion naira pegged for capital expenditure. The supplementary budget is set to increase the total non-debt recurrent expenditure of the federal government to 7.76 trillion naira and capital expenditure to 4.53 trillion naira. Despite recent moves by Central Bank of Nigeria to strengthen the foreign exchange market, the naira closed trading on the investors and exporter forex window on Thursday at 996 naira 75 kobo per dollar. This is as a 13.95% decline from the 874 naira 71 kobo per dollar it closed trading on Wednesday. So far, the naira has lost 27.75% of its value since opening the week at 780 naira 23 kobo per dollar. According to details on the FMDQ OT Securities Exchange, since forming up against the dollar last week, after news of the Apex Bank was clearing some of its backlog book, the naira has